The war had been going on for 3 years, and everyone was tired of it. The Zetheran Empire and the human colonies had been fighting over border systems, and thousands of soldiers on both sides were dead. Princess Valara stood in the council chamber of her father's palace, listening to the generals argue about strategy. She was tired of hearing about battles and body counts. Valara was different from most of her people. The Zytherans were tall and strong, with violet skin and 4 arms. They had telepathic powers that let them share thoughts with each other. Most Zytherans thought they were superior to other species, especially humans. But Valara had studied other cultures. She believed in peace. "The Galactic Council has a proposal," her father, Emperor Korthax, announced. The room fell silent. "They suggest a marriage alliance, an ancient tradition to bind 2 powers together." Valara's heart sank. She knew what was coming. "I volunteer," she said before anyone else could speak. Her older brothers and sisters stared at her in shock. Her uncle, General Varkoth, looked disgusted. "You would marry a human?" Varkoth spat the word like it was poison. "Those barbaric creatures? Those barbaric creatures have fought us to a standstill," Valara replied calmly. "Maybe that should tell us something." Her father studied her for a long moment. "You understand what this means. You would leave your home, live among them, bind yourself to one of them forever." "I understand," Valara said. "And I believe it is the right thing to do." On the other side of the galaxy, in a military briefing room on the human station New Boston, Captain Ryan Hayes sat across from Admiral Lisa Chen. Ryan was not a large man by human standards. He had sandy brown hair, gray eyes, and a quiet way of moving that made people sometimes forget he was in the room. "The Zetherans accepted the marriage proposal," Lisa said. "Their princess volunteered. Now, we need someone from our side." Ryan waited. He had learned a long time ago that silence was often the best response. "Command wants you," Lisa continued. "Your psychological profile suggests you have the temperament for this. You're calm under pressure. You don't let emotions cloud your judgment. And frankly, you're one of the few people we trust not to mess this up." "I'm a soldier, not a diplomat," Ryan said quietly. "You're both, and right now, we need the diplomat more than the soldier." Lisa slid a datapad across the table. "This is Princess Valara's file. Study it. You have 1 week to prepare. The ceremony will take place on Harmony Point Station." Ryan picked up the datapad and looked at the image of the alien princess. 4 arms, violet skin, eyes that were larger than human eyes and completely black. She looked nothing like any woman he had ever known. "What if we can't stand each other?" he asked. "Then you'll learn to fake it. This isn't about love, Captain. This is about ending a war that's killing thousands of people every month. You can handle being uncomfortable for the sake of peace, can't you?" Ryan thought about the last mission he had completed. 3 months behind enemy lines. Alone. No backup. No support. He had survived that. He could survive a political marriage. "Yes, ma'am," he said. The wedding took place exactly 1 week later. Harmony Point Station was a massive structure in neutral space, built specifically for diplomatic meetings. The ceremony hall was decorated with both human and Zytheran symbols. Valara wore traditional robes of silver and blue. Ryan wore his dress uniform, the medals on his chest representing battles he never talked about. They met for the first time at the altar. Valara looked down at the human who was about to become her husband. He was shorter than her by almost a foot. He stood perfectly still, his face showing no emotion. His thoughts were completely closed to her telepathy, which was strange. Most species broadcast their surface emotions, whether they wanted to or not. Humans were apparently different. Ryan looked up at the alien princess who was about to become his wife. She was beautiful in an exotic way. Her 4 arms moved with grace. Her eyes studied him with clear intelligence. She seemed calm, but he noticed the slight tension in her shoulders. She was nervous. That made him feel a little better. At least he wasn't the only one. The ceremony combined traditions from both cultures. They spoke vows in both languages. They exchanged gifts. A human priest and a Zetheran elder both blessed the union. And then, it was done. They were married. The reception afterward was awkward. Diplomats from a dozen species congratulated them while barely hiding their curiosity. Valara's family attended via hologram, as did Ryan's mother and sister. His father had died years ago. His mother looked worried. His sister looked fascinated. When the reception finally ended, Valara and Ryan were escorted to their assigned quarters on the station. The apartment was large, with separate bedrooms connected to a shared living space. Someone had tried to make it comfortable, decorating it with items from both cultures. They stood in the living room, suddenly alone together for the first time as husband and wife. "I will take the bedroom on the left," Valara said. Her English was perfect, though her accent was musical and strange. "That works," Ryan replied. An awkward silence stretched between them. "I want you to know," Valara said slowly, "that I do not expect anything from you beyond what the treaty requires. We must live together for 6 months. We must appear united in public. Beyond that, you are free to live your life as you wish." "Same to you," Ryan said. "I'll respect your space and your privacy." Valara felt a small wave of relief. At least he seemed reasonable. Perhaps we could have dinner together sometimes, to get to know each other. It would make the public appearances easier. That makes sense," Ryan agreed. Another silence. "I should unpack," Valara said. "Yeah, me too." They went to their separate rooms. Valara sat on her bed and wondered what she had gotten herself into. She had volunteered to save lives, to end a war. But now, the reality of it hit her. She was married to a stranger from a species she barely understood. They would live together for 6 months, playing the role of a happy couple, while peace treaties were negotiated. In the other room, Ryan unpacked his few belongings with practiced efficiency. A soldier learned to travel light. He set up his small collection of books, his music player, and a photo of his family. Then he sat on the bed and let out a long breath. This was going to be harder than any mission he had ever completed. On missions, he knew what to do. He had training, protocols, objectives. Here, he was just supposed to be married to an alien princess and somehow make it look believable. He thought about the briefing files he had read about Valara. She was educated, intelligent, and genuinely believed in peace. That was something. At least, they had that in common. From the other room, he could hear soft sounds of movement. His new wife, unpacking her own belongings, starting her own new life in this strange situation. Ryan stood up and walked to the kitchen area. He found tea, both human and Zetheran varieties. He prepared 2 cups, one of each, and carried them to the living room. "Valara," he called softly. She emerged from her room, looking surprised. "I made tea," Ryan said, holding up both cups. "I wasn't sure which you would prefer, so I made both kinds. We could talk for a bit, if you want." Valara stared at him for a moment. Then a small smile crossed her face. It was the first, genuine smile he had seen from her. "That would be nice," she said, taking the Zetheran tea. "Thank you, Ryan." They sat on opposite ends of the couch, sipping tea in the quiet apartment. 2 strangers bound together by duty and hope, beginning the long journey of learning to understand each other. 2 months passed on Harmony Point Station, and Valara found herself surprised by how easy it was to live with Ryan. He was quiet and respectful. He kept his space clean. He never invaded her privacy. And slowly, they began to spend more time together. It started with shared meals. Valara would cook Zetheran dishes and explain the ingredients. Ryan would make human food and tell her stories about Earth. Then, they began watching entertainment programs together. Valara showed him Zetheran historical dramas, Ryan introduced her to human music, which fascinated her. "Why do humans make so much music about war and fighting?" she asked one evening. They were sitting in the living room, listening to something Ryan called classical music. "We make music about everything," Ryan said. "Love, loss, joy, anger. War is just part of our history, a big part," Valara observed. She had been studying human culture, and what she found troubled her. "Your entire history is war after war. You fight each other constantly. Even now, with peace among your colonies, you have conflicts and competitions." Ryan was quiet for a moment. "We evolved differently than your people. Earth was a dangerous place. Predators everywhere. Harsh climates. Limited resources. We learned to fight to survive. It became part of who we are. But you are intelligent beings. Surely you can choose peace over violence." "We do choose peace," Ryan said. "Most of the time. But we're also ready for war when it comes. It's not something we're proud of. It's just what we are." Valara wanted to argue, but she could sense the honesty in his words. Ryan never lied to her. It was one of the things she was learning to appreciate about him. One day, Valara was reviewing documents for the peace negotiations when she came across Ryan's military file. It had been included in the marriage agreement documents. She opened it, curious to learn more about the man she had married. Most of the file was blacked out. Redacted. Classified. She could see his rank and his basic service record, but entire sections were marked with security codes she did not recognize. One phrase caught her attention. Apex Program Graduate. She had never heard of this program. That evening, she asked him about it. "Ryan, what is the Apex program?" He was making dinner, chopping vegetables with precise movements. His hands stopped for just a moment, then continued. "Where did you hear that term?" His voice was calm, but she sensed tension. "It was in your file." "I am sorry. I did not mean to pry. I was just curious about your service record." Ryan set down the knife and turned to face her. "I can't talk about that. It's classified. I am your wife. Surely there are no secrets between us. We're married for politics, Valara, not love. There are things about my past I can't share with anyone. Orders from command. Love. Love. Love." It was the first time he had drawn a clear line between them. Valara felt stung, but she tried not to show it. "I understand. I apologize for asking." The rest of the evening was awkward. They ate in silence. Valara went to her room early, but she could not stop thinking about those redacted files. What was Ryan hiding? What was this Apex program? The answer came 2 weeks later. In the worst possible way. Valara was leaving a diplomatic meeting in one of the station's conference halls. Ryan was supposed to meet her there, but he had been delayed. She was walking down the corridor with 2 Zytheran guards when 3 figures stepped out of a side passage. They wore unmarked combat suits. They raised weapons. "Princess Valara," one of them said through a voice modulator. "You're coming with us." Valara's guards moved to protect her, but the attackers were faster. Stun blasts dropped both guards instantly. Valara backed away, raising her hands, trying to use her telepathic powers to confuse the attackers. It did not work. They wore psionic shields. "Don't make this hard," the leader said, stepping toward her. Then Ryan was there. Valara did not see where he came from. One moment the corridor was empty behind the attackers. The next moment Ryan was moving. He hit the first attacker from behind, a precise strike to the neck. The man dropped. The second attacker spun, raising his weapon. Ryan was already inside his guard, twisting the weapon away, striking him twice in the chest and once in the throat. The attacker fell. The third attacker managed to fire. Ryan dodged, the stun blast missing him by inches. He closed the distance in 2 steps, disarmed the man with one hand, and put him down with a single strike to the temple. The entire fight took less than 5 seconds. Ryan stood among the 3 unconscious attackers, breathing normally, not even winded. He picked up one of the weapons and quickly checked the corridor for more threats. "Are you hurt?" he asked Valara, his voice calm. Valara stared at him. She had not even seen him move. It was like watching a recording on fast speed. No. I am fine." "What? How did you—" Int. Station security arrived seconds later, alarms blaring. They took the attackers into custody. Ryan gave a brief report. Valara noticed he made it sound simple, like it had been nothing special, but it was not nothing. It was extraordinary. That night, Valara could not sleep. She kept seeing Ryan move, that impossible speed and precision. She had watched Scytheran warriors train her entire life. She had seen combat videos from the war. She had never seen anyone move like Ryan had moved. The next morning, she confronted him. "You told me you were a soldier. You did not tell me you were something else." Ryan was making coffee, his morning routine. "I am a soldier. That's all." "No. Soldiers do not move like that. Soldiers do not take down 3 armed attackers in seconds without being injured." "What are you, Ryan?" "Soldiers.com. He was quiet for a long time. Finally, he sighed. "You want the truth? I'm Special Operations. Trained for difficult missions. That's all I can tell you. The Apex program. I can't confirm or deny that. Those attackers were professionals. They knew what they were doing. They had military training. And you made them look like children." Ryan turned to face her. His gray eyes were serious. "Valara, I know this is scary, but I need you to trust me. I would never hurt you. Everything I am, everything I can do, I would use to protect you. That's all that matters." Valara searched his face, trying to read him. Humans were so hard to understand without telepathy. But she saw sincerity in his eyes. "Were you ever going to tell me?" she asked quietly. "Probably not. I was hoping you would never need to see that side of me. I wanted you to know me as just Ryan, not as a weapon." "Weapon? Is that how you see yourself? As a weapon?" Ryan looked away. "Sometimes, when I'm being honest with myself." Valara felt something shift in her heart. This quiet, kind man, who made her tea and shared his music, he carried this inside him. This capacity for violence. And he was ashamed of it. She walked over to him and touched his shoulder gently with one of her hands. "Thank you for protecting me yesterday." He looked surprised. "Of course. I know you do," Valara said softly. "I am beginning to understand that about you." Over the following weeks, something changed between them. They were more honest with each other. They talked about deeper things. Valara shared her frustrations with her family. How they saw her as weak for wanting peace. Ryan talked about growing up poor. About joining the military to have a better life. They began to touch more casually. A hand on an arm. Sitting closer on the couch. Small things that meant something. One evening, they stood on the observation deck, watching Earth's moon through the viewing port. It was beautiful, silver, and cratered. "Do you miss home?" "Sometimes. But home is complicated. My family is good, but Earth has a lot of problems. Poverty, inequality. I joined the military partly to escape all that. Artie, I miss my home too," Valara admitted. "But I do not miss the politics. The constant competition among my siblings. The expectations." B29. "We're both running from something," Ryan observed. "Perhaps we are running toward something instead," Valara said. She looked at him. "This is not what I expected when I volunteered for this marriage." "What did you expect?" "Loneliness, duty, sacrifice, not friendship, not connection?" Ryan offered. "Yes, connection." They stood in comfortable silence, watching the moon. Ryan's hand brushed against one of Valara's. She took it, intertwining her fingers with his. It was the first time they had held hands. 6 months, Ryan said quietly. That's how long the treaty requires us to stay together. After that, we're free to go our separate ways if we want. Yes, Valara said. She did not like thinking about that. What if we didn't want to? Ryan asked, still looking at the moon. Go our separate ways, I mean. Valara's hearts beat faster. Are you saying you might want to stay together? After the treaty period ends? Ryan turned to look at her. I'm saying that I've enjoyed the last 2 months more than I expected. And I think you're amazing. And I don't know what this is between us. But I'd like to find out. If you want to. Valara smiled. A real smile that lit up her face. They stood together on the observation deck, holding hands, no longer strangers bound by duty, but two people choosing to see where this connection might lead them. 6 months had passed since the wedding, and the peace treaty was almost complete. Valara and Ryan were scheduled to visit her homeworld for a formal state reception. It would be the first time Ryan met her family in person, and the first time Valara had been home since the marriage. She was nervous. Ryan could tell. They're going to hate me, Ryan said as they packed for the trip. They will not hate you, Valara replied, though she did not sound certain. They may be suspicious, cautious, but they will be respectful. Your uncle threatened to start a war over this marriage. Varkoth threatens many things. My father keeps him in check. Ryan hoped she was right. The journey to Kyraxis Prime took 3 days by diplomatic ship. Valara spent the time teaching Ryan proper Zytheran etiquette. How to bow correctly. Which gestures were polite, and which were offensive. What topics to avoid in conversation. Remember, she said, do not look my father directly in the eyes for more than a moment. It is seen as challenging him. And do not touch your weapons in his presence. I'm not bringing weapons, Ryan said. Valara looked at him with amusement. Ryan, you are always armed. I have learned this about you. He smiled slightly. She was right. He had 3 concealed weapons on him even now. Old habits. Kyraxis Prime was beautiful. The capital city was built from white stone that gleamed in the light of twin suns. Towers reached toward the sky. Gardens filled with purple and blue plants spread between buildings. Valara's people moved through the streets, their forearms gesturing as they communicated both verbally and telepathically. Ryan felt very small and very human as their ship landed at the Imperial Palace. Emperor Korthax met them in the throne room. He was larger than Valara, his violet skin darker, his forearms thick with muscle. He studied Ryan with black eyes that revealed nothing. So this is the human my daughter chose, Korthax said in heavily accented English. Ryan bowed correctly, keeping his eyes down. Your Majesty, it is an honor to meet you. You are smaller than I expected. Weaker looking. Father, Valara said sharply, I speak only truth. The humans we fight are larger, more physically imposing. Yet you defeated 3 attackers on Harmony Point Station. I was lucky, Your Majesty. They were not expecting resistance. Korthax made a sound that might have been laughter. Humble, too. Interesting. Perhaps you will survive court politics after all. The reception that evening was enormous. Hundreds of Zytheran nobles filled the palace halls. They stared at Ryan with undisguised curiosity. Some were polite. Others were openly hostile. Ryan stayed close to Valara, letting her navigate the social currents. He noticed General Varkoth watching them from across the room. The general's expression was cold and calculating. He is planning something, Ryan said quietly to Valara. Varkoth is always planning something. Do not worry. The palace guard is loyal to my father. But Ryan could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. His instincts had kept him alive through countless missions. They were screaming at him now. The attack came at midnight. Ryan woke to the sound of explosions. He was on his feet instantly, pulling on clothes, grabbing his weapons. He ran to Valara's room and found her already awake, her face pale with shock. What is happening? She asked. Stay here. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me, Ryan. But he was already gone, moving into the corridor. Palace guards ran past him, heading toward the sounds of fighting. Ryan followed them, staying in the shadows, trying to understand what was happening. He found out quickly. Soldiers in unmarked armor were fighting the palace guards. It was a coup. Someone was taking over the palace by force. Ryan moved through the chaos, silent and deadly. He took down 3 of the attacking soldiers, stealing their communication equipment. He listened to their chatter and felt cold rage building in his chest. Varkoth. The general had betrayed them. Ryan made his way back toward Valara's room, but he was too late. A squad of soldiers had already breached the door. Valara was fighting them with her telepathic powers, but they wore psionic shields. They grabbed her with rough hands and dragged her away. Ryan followed at a distance, watching where they took her. The throne room. Varkoth was making his stand there, seizing the symbol of power. Ryan tried to get closer, but more soldiers appeared. Too many to fight. He had to fall back. He made his way to the palace communications center, fighting through scattered resistance. He accessed the human military channels and contacted Admiral Lisa Chen. Hayes. Report. Lisa's voice came through. Professional and calm, despite the late hour. Hostile takeover on Kyraxis Prime. General Varkoth is leading a coup. Emperor Korthax is dead. They have Valara. I need immediate extraction and support. There was a pause. Ryan could hear voices in the background. Then Lisa came back on. We're scrambling a rescue fleet now. ETA is 6 days. 6 days. It might as well be 6 years. Make it 10 days, Ryan said. What? Captain? Did you misspeak? Negative. I need time to work. Send the fleet in 10 days. I'll have the situation under control by then. Hayes, you're one man against an army. What are you planning? I'm going to get my wife back. Anyone between me and her is going to have a bad day. Captain, 10 days, Admiral. Hayes out. Ryan cut the connection. He sat in the dark communications center, thinking, planning. Varkoth had maybe 50,000 troops loyal to him. The palace was a fortress. Valara was a hostage. By any reasonable assessment, Ryan should hide, wait for rescue, and hope Valara survived that long. But Ryan had not lived this long by being reasonable. He accessed the palace security systems, studying layouts and guard positions. He inventoried his resources. 3 small weapons. 1 combat knife. Limited ammunition. Whatever equipment he could steal. Against 50,000 soldiers. He had faced worse odds. Not often, but he had survived. Ryan moved through the palace like a ghost, heading for the armory. He knew it would be guarded, but he also knew how to be invisible when he needed to be. He found the armory, waited for the guard rotation, and slipped inside during the 30-second window when the door was open. Inside, he found exactly what he needed. Zytheran weapons were different from human ones, but the principles were the same. He took what he could carry: plasma rifles, grenades, a personal shield generator, and most importantly, he found the palace's supply of surveillance drones. Ryan set up in an abandoned maintenance room and started his campaign. He launched the drones, sending them throughout the palace and the surrounding city. He studied Varkoth's troop deployments, looking for weaknesses and patterns. Meanwhile, Valara sat in the throne room, her hands bound, guards surrounding her. Varkoth paced in front of her, ranting about weakness and honor. Your father was a fool, Varkoth said. Making peace with humans. They are animals. Violent and primitive. They should be exterminated, not negotiated with. You are wrong, Valara said quietly. Humans are complex, capable of great violence, yes, but also great compassion. You do not understand them. The Larist and Pards, I understand them perfectly. They respect only strength. So, I will show them strength. I will use you to lure the human fleets into a trap, and then I will destroy them all." Valara said nothing. She closed her eyes and reached out with her telepathic senses, trying to find Ryan. She could not sense him clearly. Humans were difficult to read, but she felt something. A cold determination, a hunting presence moving through the palace. He was alive, and he was coming for her. That night, the first of Varkoth's supply depots exploded. Then another, and another. Chaos spread through the rebel forces. Guards reported seeing a shadow, a figure that moved too fast to track. Equipment went missing. Soldiers were found unconscious, their weapons taken. Varkoth stood in the command center, watching reports flood in. "Find the human," he ordered. "I want him alive. I want to make an example of him." But Ryan was already gone, moving to his next target. He had 10 days to dismantle an army. He had better get started. In her cell, Valara smiled. She did not know what Ryan was planning, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Her husband was not the kind of man who gave up, and Varkoth had made a terrible mistake. He thought he was fighting a soldier. He had no idea he was fighting something far more dangerous. He was fighting a human who had something to protect, someone he loved, and there was nothing in the galaxy more dangerous than that. The first night of Ryan's war against Varkoth's forces was methodical and brutal. He moved through the city like a predator, striking targets that would cause maximum disruption with minimum risk. Supply depots first. Then, communication relays. Then the power generators that fed the military installations. By dawn, Varkoth had lost 30% of his logistical capability. The general stood in the command center, staring at damage reports. One man did this? Impossible. His second in command, a scarred veteran named Thrax, shook his head. The security footage shows nothing. He moves during guard changes. He knows our patterns. This is not a random soldier. This is someone with special training. Then find someone with special training to stop him, Varkoth snapped. But it was not that simple. The rebellion's best soldiers were already hunting Ryan. They just could not find him. Ryan had learned urban warfare in a dozen different cities, on a dozen different worlds. He knew how to disappear, how to blend into crowds during the day and shadows at night, how to make his enemies paranoid and jumpy, how to turn their own security measures against them. On the second night, he went after personnel. He found a barracks, housing 200 elite soldiers, and pumped sleeping gas through the ventilation system. While they slept, he disabled their weapons and equipment. When they woke up, they were harmless. He did not kill them. He could have. It would have been easier. But Ryan had rules. He only killed when there was no other choice. These soldiers were following orders. They deserved a chance to walk away. But the officers giving those orders? That was different. Valara could sense the growing fear among the rebel forces through her telepathic connection to the guards outside her cell. They talked about the ghost, the phantom, the human demon, who could not be stopped. She heard them whispering prayers to their gods for protection. She tried to reach out to Ryan telepathically, but humans were almost impossible to read from a distance. Still, she sent thoughts of encouragement into the void, hoping somehow he could feel them. On the third night, Ryan escalated. He hacked into the planetary defense grid, the network of satellites and ground stations that protected Kyraxis Prime from orbital attacks. He did not destroy it. He took control of it. Then he broadcast a message on all military frequencies. His face appeared on every screen in every rebel installation. "General Varkoth," Ryan said, his voice calm and even. "You have my wife. I want her back. You have 24 hours to release her and leave this planet. If you don't, I will make things very uncomfortable for you." Varkoth watched the message and laughed. "He threatens me? With what? He has no army, no support. He is alone." "Sir," Thrax said carefully, "he controls the defense grid. He could target us from orbit, then shut down the grid. Cut all power to it. We're trying, sir. He's changed all the access codes. It will take days to regain control. Varkoth's laughter died. For the first time, he looked worried. Ryan did not actually plan to use the defense grid to attack. That would kill too many innocent people. But Varkoth did not know that. Fear was a weapon too. The 24 hours passed. Varkoth did not surrender. Instead, he doubled the guards around Valara and prepared his forces for a direct assault to reclaim the defense grid control center. Ryan watched them mass through his surveillance drones. 30,000 soldiers, moving in formation toward his last known position. It was impressive, disciplined, professional. It was also exactly what Ryan wanted them to do. While they were focused on the defense grid center, Ryan was already moving toward a different target, the Palace District, where Valara was being held. He had spent the last 3 days planting explosives throughout the district. Small charges, carefully placed to disable defenses without causing civilian casualties. Now, as Varkoth's army marched away from the palace, Ryan triggered the charges. Explosions rippled through the district. Guard towers fell. Barricades collapsed. Communication arrays went dark. In the chaos, Ryan moved. He wore stolen Zytheran armor, modified to fit his smaller frame. He carried Zytheran weapons. At a distance, in the smoke and confusion, he looked like just another soldier. He made it to the palace outer walls before anyone realized he was not supposed to be there. Then, he dropped the disguise and started fighting his way in. 500 guards stood between Ryan and the throne room. They were prepared for an attack. They had fortified positions. They had heavy weapons. They had every advantage. Except they were not fighting a normal soldier. Ryan moved through the palace, like water flowing around rocks. When guards concentrated their fire, he was already somewhere else. When they set up ambushes, he went through walls instead of doors. When they tried to surround him, he went vertical, using climbing gear to access levels they were not defending. He used their own tactics against them. Zytherans relied heavily on telepathic coordination. Ryan disrupted it by forcing them to split up. He used smoke grenades to kill their line of sight. He created noise and chaos to overwhelm their senses. And when he had to fight directly, he was devastating. Human reaction times were faster than Zytheran. Human combat training emphasized individual initiative over group coordination. Ryan had been trained by the best fighters humanity had ever produced. He went through the palace defenses like a knife through paper. Valara felt the battle coming closer. She could sense the panic among her guards. They were receiving reports of a single attacker fighting through hundreds of soldiers and winning. It seemed impossible, but Valara knew Ryan. She knew what he was capable of, and she knew that he would not stop until he reached her or died trying. The guards tried to move her to a more secure location. They opened her cell door and found Ryan standing there, plasma rifle in hand, breathing hard but alive. "Step away from her," Ryan said quietly. The guards looked at each other. They were telepathically debating whether to fight or surrender. They knew this human had just fought through 500 soldiers to get here. They were only 10. Their squad leader made the smart choice. "We yield," he said, lowering his weapon. Ryan kept his rifle trained on them as he moved to Valara. He cut her restraints with his combat knife. "Are you hurt?" he asked. "No. I am fine." "Ryan, how did you—" "Later. We need to move." But it was not that simple. Varkoth's main force had realized the attack on the defense grid center was a diversion. They were racing back to the palace. 30,000 soldiers, converging on their position. Ryan and Valara made it to the throne room before the army arrived. Ryan sealed the doors and checked his ammunition. He was running low. His armor was damaged. His shield generator was failing. He looked at Valara. "I need you to stay behind me. Whatever happens, stay down and stay safe." "Ryan, There are 30,000 soldiers out there. Even you cannot fight that many. I don't have to fight them all. I just have to make them think twice about coming through that door." He set up a defensive position, placing the last of his explosives around the entrances. He readied his weapons. And he waited. Varkoth's voice came through the external speakers. "Human, you fought well. You have my respect. But this is over. Surrender now, and I will allow you both to live." Ryan activated his own communication system. "You want to know something interesting, General? I've been holding back. This whole time, I've been trying not to kill your soldiers, trying to do this the clean way. But you know what? I'm tired, and I'm angry. And my wife is in danger. So here's my counteroffer. You walk away right now, or I stop holding back." Varkoth laughed. "You are one man. One tired, wounded man. What can you possibly do?" Ryan's response was cold. "You're about to find out." Varkoth gave the order to attack. The soldiers breached the throne room doors and poured inside. They expected to overwhelm Ryan through sheer numbers. What they got instead was a lesson in why humanity had fought the Scytheran Empire to a standstill, despite being outnumbered and outgunned. Ryan fought like nothing they had ever seen. He was everywhere at once. His movements were economical and precise. No wasted motion. No hesitation. He used their numbers against them, forcing them to bunch up, to get in each other's way. When his rifle ran dry, he switched to his pistol. When that ran dry, he used captured weapons. When those ran out, he used his combat knife. When soldiers got too close, he used his bare hands. Valara watched in horror and awe. This was not the gentle man who had made her tea. This was not the husband who had shared his music with her. This was a weapon, honed to perfection, unleashed without restraint. The soldiers kept coming. Ryan kept fighting. Minutes passed like hours. And then Valara did something she had never done before. She pushed her telepathic powers to their absolute limit. She reached out to every soldier in the throne room and broadcast Ryan's emotions directly into their minds. They felt what Ryan felt. His love for Valara. His determination to protect her. His absolute, unbreakable will to survive. The intensity of it was overwhelming. It burned in their minds like fire. The soldiers closest to Ryan felt it strongest. They saw him not as an enemy, but as a force of nature, unstoppable, inevitable. And they broke. One by one, the soldiers lowered their weapons. They backed away. They could not fight against that level of determination. It was beyond their understanding. Within minutes, 200 soldiers stood in the throne room, weapons down, unable to continue. Ryan stood among them, bloody and exhausted, but still standing. He looked at Valara. "Nice trick," he said. Varkoth himself finally entered the throne room. He stared at the scene before him in disbelief. What did you do to my soldiers?" "I showed them the truth," Valara said, her voice strong despite her exhaustion. "I showed them what they were really fighting. And they chose not to die for your ambition." The general raised his own weapon, pointing it at Valara. "Then I will kill you myself." Ryan moved, but he was too far away. Too slow. But he did not need to reach Varkoth. The soldiers, inspired by what Valara had shown them, turned on their general. They surrounded him, disarmed him, and forced him to his knees. "The coup is over," Valara declared. "My father is dead, and I claim the throne as his rightful heir. General Varkoth, you are under arrest for treason and murder." Varkoth spat at her feet. "You are weak. You and your human. You will destroy our empire." "No," Valara said softly. "We will save it." Ryan walked to Valara and took her hand. They stood together in the throne room, surrounded by the aftermath of battle, knowing this was only the beginning. The human rescue fleet arrived 2 days early. Admiral Lisa Chen led a battle group of 12 ships, fully armed and ready for war. What she found instead was peace. Valara met her in the palace reception hall, now cleaned of all signs of battle. Ryan stood beside her, wearing formal dress instead of armor. His wounds had been treated, though he moved stiffly. "Admiral Chen," Valara said formally, "welcome to Kyraxis Prime. I apologize for the dramatic circumstances of your visit." Lisa looked between Valara and Ryan, trying to understand what had happened. Captain Hayes reported a coup. An army of 50,000 hostile soldiers. He requested 10 days to handle the situation. It has been 6 days. What exactly did he handle? Everything, Valara said simply. The coup is over. General Varkoth is in custody. My father's loyalists have been restored to power, and I have been crowned Empress. Lisa turned to Ryan. Captain, your report mentioned you would have things under control. I expected that to mean you would be hiding and waiting for rescue. Ryan shrugged, then winced at the movement. I changed the plan. He fought an army by himself, Valara added. He destroyed their supply lines, disabled their communications, and broke their will to fight. He saved my life and my throne. Lisa stared at Ryan for a long moment. Then she smiled slightly. I should have known. Once Apex, always Apex. Valara's attention sharpened. Apex. That word appears in Ryan's file. What does it mean? Apex. Lisa looked at Ryan, who nodded permission. The Apex program is humanity's most classified military project. It creates individual soldiers capable of operating alone behind enemy lines for extended periods. The training is brutal. The selection process eliminates 99% of candidates. Only 47 humans have ever completed the program. Captain Hayes is one of them. And you sent him to me as a diplomat, Valara said, her voice carrying a note of disbelief. We sent him to you because he has the rare combination of skills needed for this mission. He can fight when necessary, but he also knows when not to fight. That second part is more important than the first. Valara looked at Ryan with new understanding. You could have killed all of Varkoth's soldiers. You had the training, the weapons, the opportunity, but you chose not to. They were following orders, Ryan said quietly. Most of them didn't know the truth about Varkoth's plans. They thought they were doing the right thing. I don't kill people for being wrong. But you would have killed Varkoth. Yes. He knew what he was doing. He chose murder and treason. That's different. The truth about Ryan's abilities spread quickly through the Zytheran military and government. Some were terrified. Others were fascinated. But everyone understood that Empress Valara had the most dangerous warrior in the known galaxy as her husband. Valara used this to her advantage. She called a meeting of all military commanders and political leaders. She stood before them in the throne room, Ryan at her side. My father believed in strength, she told them. He was right. But he misunderstood what strength means. Strength is not just the ability to make war, it is also the wisdom to choose peace when peace is possible. My husband demonstrated both. She gestured to Ryan. He fought when I was in danger. He protected what he loved. But he also showed mercy. When mercy was deserved, he could have turned this palace into a tomb. Instead, he turned it into a lesson. This is the kind of strength our empire needs. One of the older generals stood. Your Majesty. With respect, one human warrior is impressive. But what about the billions of humans in their colonies? Should we fear them all? Valara smiled. You should respect them all. The same species that created warriors like my husband also created philosophers, artists, scientists, and peacemakers. They are complex, contradictory, capable of great violence and great compassion. Exactly like us. She paused, letting that sink in. The peace treaty my father negotiated will stand. But I am expanding it. I propose a full alliance between the Zytheran Empire and the human frontier. Shared technology, shared defense, shared future. The room erupted in debate. Some supported the idea, others opposed it. But no one could deny that the old way, the way of constant war, had failed. Over the following weeks, Valara and Ryan worked together to build the framework for this new alliance. It was difficult work. There was resistance on both sides. But slowly, progress was made. One evening, they stood together on the palace balcony, looking out over the capital city. The suns were setting, painting the white stone in shades of orange and purple. "Do you regret it?" Valara asked. "The marriage? Everything that happened?" Ryan was quiet for a moment. "I regret the violence. I regret that people died. But I don't regret protecting you. And I don't regret getting to know you. You could go home now. The treaty is fulfilled. We lived together for 6 months. You have done your duty. Is that what you want? For me to leave?" Valara turned to face him, 2 of her hands taking his. "No. That is the last thing I want. I love you." Ryan Hayes. "I think I have loved you since you made me tea on our first night together. Since you showed me kindness when kindness was not required." Ryan smiled, that rare genuine smile she had learned to treasure. "I love you too. I didn't expect to. I didn't think I was capable of it anymore. But you changed that. You changed me." They kissed, an awkward gesture between species with different anatomies, but full of genuine affection. "So what happens now?" Ryan asked. "Now we build something new. Together. I need a consort. Someone I trust absolutely. Someone who can help me navigate the politics and protect our people. I'm a soldier, not a politician. You are both, and you are exactly what I need." The announcement of Ryan's retirement from active military service surprised many. The announcement that he would serve as Valara's consort and chief military advisor surprised no one. It made perfect sense. The first joint training exercise between human and Scytheran forces took place 3 months later. Ryan stood on the training field, watching young soldiers from both species learning to work together. They struggled at first. Different tactics, different communication styles, different physical abilities, but they learned. Slowly. They began to understand each other. A young Scytheran recruit approached Ryan nervously. "Consort Hayes? Can I ask you something?" "Of course. Is it true you fought the entire rebel army by yourself?" Ryan considered the question. The truth was complicated. "I fought when I had to, but I also had help. Your Empress used her powers to show the soldiers something important, and many of them chose to stop fighting. That was courage too. Sometimes not fighting takes more strength than fighting." The recruit thought about this. "So strength isn't just about violence?" "Exactly. Real strength is knowing when to fight and when to talk. When to push and when to yield. When to be hard and when to be gentle. That's what we're trying to teach you here. To be complete warriors, not just fighters." The recruit saluted and returned to training. Ryan watched him go, feeling something he had not felt in years. Hope. That evening, Ryan and Valara had dinner together in their private quarters. It was a simple meal, combining human and Scytheran dishes. They ate in comfortable silence. "I received a message from my sister today," Ryan said. "She wants to visit. See Kyraxis Prime. Meet you properly. I would like that. Your family is welcome here. She asked me something interesting. She asked if I was happy." "And what did you tell her?" Ryan looked at Valara. At this extraordinary woman who had become his wife, his partner, his love. I told her yes. For the first time in my life, I'm genuinely happy. Valara reached across the table and took his hand. "I am happy too. I volunteered for this marriage to save lives, to end a war. But I gained so much more than I expected. We both did." They finished their meal and moved to the balcony, their favorite spot. The city below them was peaceful. The stars above them were bright. Somewhere out there, Human and Zytheron ships patrolled together, protecting both their peoples. "Do you think it will last?" Ryan asked. "The peace we built?" Nothing lasts forever," Valara said. "There will be challenges, conflicts, times when old hatreds try to resurface. But we will face them together, and we will teach others to do the same. Together." Ryan agreed. They stood on the balcony, holding hands, looking toward a future that was uncertain but full of possibility. Valara had married a human for peace and discovered that peace was not the absence of conflict, but the choice to build something better despite the conflict. Ryan had accepted a political marriage out of duty and discovered that duty could transform into love. Together, they had taken two species that hated each other and shown them a different path. Not through force alone, though force had been necessary, but through the courage to choose understanding over fear. Below them, the city lights came on one by one, like stars being born. A new era was beginning. An era built on the foundation of an unlikely marriage between an alien princess and a human warrior. And somewhere in the military archives, a classified file was being updated. Captain Ryan Hayes, Apex program graduate, had completed his final mission. Not with violence, though violence had been part of it, but with something more powerful. He had fought for peace, and he had won. The file was sealed and stored away. Ryan's war was over. His new life was just beginning, and it was going to be extraordinary.